So you're on your way to the fantasy basketball playoffs. You're excited, you're getting ready, you're looking at schedule grids, all of that good stuff. In this episode, we're going to go over some players you need to pay attention to for the waiver wire so you could bring home that fantasy championship. We believe every NBA fan that plays fantasy football should also play fantasy basketball. So I'm back in the whip, y'all. Back in the car again, trying to shoot another quick episode during my lunch break at work. I did an episode when I was driving, and some of the community members was like, yo, Robin, be careful. Like, it's okay. We don't need you. Like, we don't need you driving. Like, don't podcast and drive, Robin. Right? So I'm going to try to avoid doing the episodes while I'm moving, just because I don't want our community members to be out there worried about me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to take it easy with that. I'm going to try to pull over. And it's also better when I pull over because I can take some notes and kind of prepare for the show a little better. That episode I think was good because it was a very general, evergreen video about what was it about? I think it was like the surefire way to do well in the playoffs. And we talked about streaming. Yes, it was like why you should stream, best ways to stream, that type of video. And then the last one we did that dropped on Wednesday morning was about actually injuries, how to manage injured players with so many people banged up like Trae Young, Embiid this season, all of that. So this episode is for the 2023-2024 season. Those other two videos, I tried to create more of an evergreen content, something that will last on the internet and be a topic that would resonate with fantasy basketball sickos like you for the rest of time, as long as the internet doesn't shut down like Facebook did this week. Did you guys see that? What the heck? It's wild out here. Anyway, let's jump right into it. I know you're not here to listen to me rant about my driving in cars and, talking about Facebook. You guys are here for some chicken nuggets. You guys are here for some fantasy basketball nuggets, and I am about to provide them. Big shout out to the entire fantasy basketball community. Let's get it. So, first person I want to talk about is someone who I haven't really addressed in the on the show, and I wanted to cover him because he is really starting to pick up steam. And I think over the next couple of weeks, especially if you listen to what we said at the beginning of the season, that you should have started your fantasy playoffs this week, right? It should have started this week. But if you didn't, it's still fine. You might be able to get some value from him. Excuse me, I just ate lunch, guys. I'm sorry. Vasilij Micić from the Charlotte Hornets. He is getting tons of run right now because Charlotte is super banged up. Their roster looks like a fantasy basketball triage at the daggone emergency room. It's a bad look. You got LaMelo Ball walking around with a daggone hospital gown. You got Cody Martin pushing a daggone IV, pole or whatever. I'm just joking, guys. I hope they're okay. But yes, Cody Martin specifically, his absence is creating tons of opportunity. So Micić is someone you need to take a look at. I don't know how long his value will last. It really depends on when Martin comes back. But I would add and hold as long as he's producing. Again, as noted in the streaming episode, you want to watch that. How to win in your fantasy playoffs is to stream. Watch that episode because this is a great example of a player that you got to be able to love and leave. Grab him, let him rock out with you, let him help you get some points. But if in fact you start to see him slump or there's a significant decrease in his value, especially if a player returns from injury and that negatively impacts his production, then you got to just cut ties. So that's the first guy. Next one I want to talk about is someone we have talked about in the channel. But I think with the injury to Devin Booker in Phoenix, I think he'll be even more valuable. I'm talking about Grayson Allen. Now, Grayson Allen is widely rostered, right? He's, I think, 60 or 70% rostered right now. But there's 30% of leagues out there where he is available. So if that is your league, go check your waiver wire right now. See if he's on somebody's roster. Especially in a category league. If you're playing 9-cat, 8-cat, his value is greater. I think he's ranked in the 60s, like top 60 for category leagues, where as for points leagues, he's in the 120s, I believe. But that's still valuable as a streamer in points leagues. And with the injury to Devin Booker, I imagine that there may be a spike in his overall production, fantasy-wise, so that's something you want to pay attention to. This is something that you want to pay attention to. But again, just so we're crystal clear, absolutely clear, if you play in a category league, this man must be rostered. Grayson Allen has to be rostered. I'm just saying. Next player we want to talk about is Deuce McBride from the New York Knicks with the injury to Jalen Brunson. He was one of the most added players over the last couple of days, and I imagine he will be able to capitalize on this opportunity of getting more playing time, getting into the rotation. And you know, the way it goes with Tom Thibodeau, he runs players to the ground. Like, Tibbs will have a player, play 2 hours if he could. Like, he will run a player to the ground. So if McBride starts to show any signs of progress with the playing time, look for Tibbs to give him more opportunity. So that's something you really want to pay attention to with Jalen Brunson out. The next player I want to talk about is Dean Wade from the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we had an injury, an unfortunate injury, to Evan Mobley. They said Evan Mobley's ankle looks like a softball. He said his foot was very swollen, and they said his foot was very swollen, and he left the game on crutches. I have Evan Mobley in a bunch of spots, in my league. I have him kind of all over the place. And when I saw the news of him being put into a position where he is going to be banged up and he's going to be out, it scared me and it concerned me a little bit. So I want to say that although Mobley's injury, it hasn't been determined what it is, if it's a sprain or if there's more significant damage there. I haven't received any news on that. It is worth noting that Dean Wade, when he gets the opportunity to play, is super valuable for fantasy basketball. He went off last night. I don't have the stats in front of me, but check his stats recently. If he gets minutes, he puts up numbers. And I believe that with Evan Mobley out, he will likely be the target that they use to fill that void in Evan Mobley's absence. Next up, we're going to talk about somebody that I was so high on. I was Cheech and Chong, Method Man and Redman, Snoop Dogg high on this guy. And he kind of wet the bed, man. He kind of pooped in a pool like Jordan. Like, he did not come out of the gates like I expected him to. And I had given up, to be quite honest. Quite frankly, I'd given up hope on this brother. I thought, like, all right, it is what it is. He ain't what I thought he was. Bye-bye. And over the last couple of games, oh, baby, a change has come. An evolution is, happening right before our eyes. I'm talking about from the New Orleans Pelicans, Trey Murphy III. Trey Murphy is a marksman. He is a marksman, one of the most elite sharpshooters in the NBA. But this season, he's kind of been stinking up the joint. Cold, hot dog water, dumpster juice. Not a good look. But recently, he's been picking it up. And I think last night, I don't have stats in front of me. I just have the names, and I'm doing my commentary like that. But I believe he hit like 7 threes last night. Let that sink in. He is that type of player. where he drains threes. And while we're at it, I just wanted to do a quick disclaimer. There was an error. I had an error on our Week 19 video. So on our Week 19 video, I said I gave stats on Jordan Goodwin, and I was referring to his 7-day stats. And I didn't clarify that. So just wanted to put that out there. And another thing that while I'm at it, thinking about, mistakes or misspeaking, in my last episode, I said, I don't give a shish kebab what happens in your life. That is not true. Guys, I was just hyped up. So please, let's strike that from the record. I apologize if I offended anyone. That was not meant to come out like that. I think my exact words were, I don't give a shish kebab what happens in your life. You need to not unfollow the channel type of thing. Like, my bad, guys. I was just hyped up. So for clarity, I do care about everything that happens in your life, especially if it has to do with serious stuff like family stuff, if you have job issues. This is what this content is for, to help you get through that. As you probably know, we started the channel the year that my brother passed away. And I use this channel as kind of a release and a space where I can mourn through his memory, because he's the person that gave me the inspiration to create this channel. So every time I rock for my big brother, Kevin. So if you're dealing with stuff like that outside of fantasy, I'm here to support with that too. All you have to do is shoot me an email at info@believeinfantasy.com, and I got your back. So I just wanted to clarify on those two things. So back to Trey Murphy. So if Trey Murphy is available, which he is in a lot of spots, I would grab him and see what happens. Next player we want to talk about is his teammate, Herb Jones, another player who is widely available on fantasy basketball waiver wires. Do not let that man collect dust. Grab both of them if you can. And again, if you need to drop and stream, you got to do what you got to do. Now let's just talk about a couple of buy low and sell high scenarios. So you probably have had your trade deadline pass. Some leagues don't. Some leagues are still trading, right? Like that's one of the best parts of those leagues, right? Like, oh my God, we're gonna trade last minute. If in fact your trade deadline hasn't passed, or let's say you're in a dynasty league, and most dynasty leagues, they like trade year round. That's the appeal of a dynasty league. If you don't know what a dynasty league is, basically that's a format where it's a full keeper format where you get to keep all of the players that you draft year to year. So you could essentially grab somebody off the wire like Nikola Jokic the year that he was a rookie, his rookie year when he wasn't really the joker that he is today, and you can stash him until he develops into that all-star or MVP level player. So Dynasty is mad fun. If you want more information about Dynasty, you can actually ask about it in our Discord. If you're not in our Discord, all you have to do is visit believeinfantasy.com. So the first buy low I want to talk about is Franz Wagner. I got Franz Wagner on my team. I almost traded him away. Like, I almost traded him away. I was like, what the? And it's in Dynasty. I was like, he got to go. Messing me up in the playoffs. He has been having a bit of a slump. He's in a bit of a slump. And Franz Wagner is solid, man. He is a solid, multi-purpose, Swiss Army knife type fantasy player. So he'll bounce back. These numbers are not a true representation of his value, so don't get fooled into it if you are, in fact, a Franz Wagner manager. However, if you have someone in your league who has Franz Wagner on their team, and you want to see if you could create a package to bring him over, then you got to do what you got to do, because honestly, he is the type of player that could shift the balance on your team if you're trying to get into the playoffs or if you're gearing up for the playoffs. So I would definitely try to buy low on Franz Wagner. And the next person we want to talk about is Derek White, who right now is a sell high. He had a bit of a stinky run, right? He had a really hot start. I'll start there. So he had a really hot start to the season, and then slowly but surely, as the season progressed, he regressed, right? He and honestly, it was pretty much like the middle of the season. He was just like, average and bad, really. And he's starting to pick it up again. But like it is like out of control. Like he's getting steals, he's getting blocks, like he's getting all of those defensive stats that we love in fantasy. So if you have Derek White on your team and you can like leverage him to get a more dominant type player, maybe package in another player with Derek White to bring home a second round type player, maybe even a third round type player, then I would do that. I would bust that move because there might be some regression in the upcoming weeks for Derek White. Listen, the most important thing, guys, you need to be a two-way player. What do I mean? Two-way player. On offense, you're watching the YouTube channel. You're subscribing to YouTube. You're leaving comments. You're being active there. Defense, you listen to the podcast. This is super important. And with us creating more content, especially on the audio side, we want you to do both if you can. But if you can listen and you have never listened to podcasts, this is an amazing time to do it. You can actually put me in your ears, not literally, of course. Do your workout, drive this to work or to school, whatever your downtime is, listen to the content on audio. If you're in the car listening to the video on YouTube, that's great too, but we really want more people to listen to the audio version of the show. If you have any questions, I'm answering every single comment on the YouTube version of this episode. I'll repeat. I am answering every single question in the comment section of the YouTube version of this episode. So drop your questions. If you have multiple questions or if you have follow-up questions to your first one, let me answer the first question in that thread and just start another thread, because when people respond in the same thread, it's just a lot harder for me to keep up with, especially if we have a video that does well and gets a lot of comments. I hope you have an amazing day. I'm going to try to bang out another episode for you guys a little later on this week. And let me know if you guys want me to continue to do that, because as long as you guys are getting value, I'll keep pumping out content. Don't forget, play the waivers, set your lineups, and believe in fantasy.